Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I have finally gotten around to trying out the Tsurugi after she received her buffs in Update 14.0. We had a lot going on this update, and of course I tried out the Republic first because that was a more surprising buff to me. The Republic, I think I'm pretty much on the same page with a lot of other players. The Republic was in a pretty good place as she was, and the fact that she got a Sigma buff was pretty surprising to me. The Tsurugi, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority when I, espouse my love for the Tsurugi. I think I was one of the few that gave her a relatively pretty positive review when I reviewed her upon her initial release, and I loved the ship from day one. I still loved it before these buffs, and after these buffs she's pretty darn good. We'll get to that here in a moment. But anyway, what is a Tsurugi? Well, the Tsurugi is a tier 9 premium Japanese battlecruiser armed with 6 457mm 18-inch guns. So while they are 18 inches, they are not 18.1 inches, so they do not have the ability to overmatch 32 millimeters of armor, like the Yamato with her 460mm 18-inch guns, or something like, of course, the Satsuma with her 20-inch guns. So you do get that 30mm overmatch, so that's pretty good, especially for bullying cruisers and other battle cruisers. On top of that, you get Asashio torpedoes that surprisingly do come in help quite often. Even though they're slow, they can only hit battleships. I've put them to good use in my time with the Tsurugi. On top of that, she is, of course, a battle cruiser, meaning she is quite maneuverable, and that was one of the things she got a nice buff to in this update as well. So the Tsurugi was considered to be pretty subpar by many when she first came out. She is a solid battle cruiser, and by that I mean, like, she is a battle cruiser, right? She does not have battleship armor. She does eat pins from pretty much every angle. And if you are unfortunate enough to catch, to be caught with your broadside to the enemy team, and there's a battleship paying attention to you, you're probably going to lose a pretty substantial part of your HP. And that was one of the big complaints about the Surui when she first came out, is that she was pretty frail. I mean, yeah, but it's in the name battle cruiser. I think, well, up until that point, at least, a lot of the battle cruisers we had gotten in game, like the German battle cruisers and the British battle cruisers, they were fairly tough for being battle cruisers, right? Like the German battle cruisers, the Schlieffen line, they are battle cruisers, they have less HP, and yeah, they do have thinner-ish armor, but they're still pretty tough ships. And then the British battle cruisers, they definitely have thinner armor and less HP, but they get the improved and super British battleship heal when you get to the higher tier ships. So they're pretty tough battle cruisers. The Japanese battle cruisers, on the other hand, they're more in line with what you'd expect in terms of them being squishy, and the Tsurugi very much so, because she's actually quite maneuverable, unlike the rest of the battle cruise, the Japanese battle cruiser line. The Bungo is actually pretty slow by battle cruiser standards, but not the Tsurugi. The Tsurugi is nice and quick, especially if you, of course, put the speed flag on her. She goes 35 knots without the speed flag, over 35 with the speed flag. So that's more of what I'm thinking when I hear the term battle cruiser. And she's more maneuverable than the Japanese main battle cruiser line as well. Of course, the downside of this is that she only gets 6 18-inch guns instead of course, like the Bungo with its, friggin' 12 18-inch guns or 10 18-inch guns, right? And that's where the fun came in for me with the Tsurugi, because she's a fast, nimble battle cruiser with really accurate 18-inch guns. She has 2.05 Sigma with the same dispersion as the Yoshino and the Azuma. So that is a recipe for bullying the living crap out of cruisers and really anything that shows your broadside with those 18-inch guns. And keep in mind, if you put the reload booster on, you got a 22-second reload before this buff. So a 22-second reload on a fast and maneuverable ship with 18-inch guns and Yoshino dispersion. That's pretty dang good. And then this update, they went ahead and said, you know what, let's cook her a little bit more. So what happened with the Surui is that her base reload got buffed from 25 to 24 seconds. So you got a 1 second faster reload time on these guns. Is that a big deal? Abso-friggin-lutely, especially when it comes to battleships. Battleships have very long reload times, so when they get a whole second shaved off, that is something that is definitely noticeable. And then her HE shells got the same ballistics as her AP shells. They have a flatter trajectory now, so they don't, spend 6 days in the air getting to the target. Meaning that a lot of the frustration that was happening with the Tsurugi is that, you do only have 6 457mm guns. They can't overmatch 32mm of armor. So there are, of course, going to be cases when you do have to swap on over to that HE. But the HE, of course, before this buff was pretty floaty. But now that it has flatter arcs than the AP than it did beforehand, it's a lot more comfortable to spam HE in the ship when you need to, which of course means more shells on target and more damage in return. And then they buffed her turning radius from 970 meters to 890 meters, making her turn even tighter. And then they went and gave her another charge of her repair party to help with the fact that, yeah, she is pretty squishy. So, what this leads to now is a ship that's infinitely comfier to play because she's turning tighter now with that smaller turning radius, meaning that it's harder to actually hit the ship. And when you're turning now, of course, the tighter radius also means you can get your belt armor angled quicker. So, that helps a whole lot when you're trying not to eat shots to your citadel. And when you do eat shots to your ship, and you of course do wind up losing a good bit of your HP, you now have 5, potentially 6 heals if you have Yamamoto on the Tsurugi managed to pick up first blood. So she's a lot more comfortable to play now, as long as you can disengage. That's another thing that's great about the Tsurugi too. If you do go ahead and build into it, she is really friggin' stealthy. Like, we're talking 11.5 kilometers here once you get a full build on there, which is insane for a battleship that's this fast, this maneuverable, has 2.05 Sigma on its 18-inch guns, and then gets Yoshino dispersion on top of that. So, yeah, it's stealthy, it's fast, Asashio torpedoes, 18-inch guns, all of that in one package now. So, when you put all that together, this ship is way comfier to play now, and it's giving me Georgia flashbacks to well, I'm going to say to maybe to old school Georgia. You see, when the Georgia was first released back in the day, her guns were literally the most accurate in game. So when you obviously built into them even more, they were pretty dang crazy. Now, of course, the Tsurugi isn't anywhere near that accurate, but I'm getting some pretty good salvos out of the Tsurugi. Of course, that hasn't changed, but what has changed is the fact that you get a quicker reload now. With the reload module, you get that reload down to 21 seconds. 21 seconds base reload. Now, like so many love to point out, the Tsurugi is a pretty squishy ship, so once you start eating damage, you're going to find yourself with a sub 20 second reload on 2.05 Sigma, Yoshino dispersion, 18-inch guns. With a sub 20 second reload. That is pretty crazy in my opinion. Now, yes, they are the 457s, and yes, they are still the Japanese AP. The AP shells, they're kind of it's weird with the Japanese AP shells. With the Tsurugi, they did do some adjustments to them, so they're a little bit better than like the mainline shells. But there are, of course, many a case when you are going to find yourself bouncing the shells, because again, at the end of the day, they don't overmatch 32mm of armor. But again, that's where the now improved HE shells come into play. You can get those on target more reliably, and I mean, like, it's doing some pretty good damage. I mean, if you get a game that lasts, which was pretty friggin' hard to get with the teams I was getting when I was recording the B-roll footage for this video, pretty easy to get it above 200,000 damage with, again, these guns, with this accuracy and this reload and the 18-inch guns. So she is, in my book now, one of the best battle cruisers in game. Now, again, she is very much a battle cruiser, right? You can't go charge headlong into the enemy in this ship and expect to survive, because you're not going to. She's great for catching those broadsides, blapping those broadsides, and then going undetected when things get a little bit too spicy for her. Again, 11.5, 11.7 kilometer detection range. So her base detection range is, I'm looking at the stats right now. I don't have the game put up in front of me. 14.14 kilometers. So yeah, obviously once you build into that, again, yeah, you're going to have around 11.5 kilometer detection range, which is absurd for a ship with this speed and, again, this maneuverability. So use all that to your advantage, and yeah, you're going to find yourself sitting on a nice stack of damage at the end of the game. And with the improved HE shells and the quicker reload now, I really wasn't having much trouble, again, putting down the damage in the Tsurugi. It's, just doing your best to not get caught off guard and getting your broadside slapped in return. So, glass cannon, yeah, but they just made this glass cannon even more accurate and even more deadly now with the reload buffs and the improvement to your HE shells. And now you're more maneuverable with a shorter turning circle radius, and you have an additional heal. You can disengage, heal up. You got an extra heal now, and then go back in for some more damage, which is pretty much how I played the ship. I played it pretty much like a second-line battleship, behind the ships that, with the way the teams are going, I was trying to play second line, but I was usually in the front because everyone loves to run to the back the second something goes mildly south nowadays. But ideally, you want to be behind the battleships that are tanking, but in front of the battleships that are dedicated snipers, like, of course, the Yamis and the Shikishimas and things like that. Since you do have that good detection range, you can play a little bit closer, get a little bit closer into the enemy team, and that makes getting your shots on target that much easier, even though you do have very accurate guns, and you can, of course, if you need to, snipe if you need to, but closer you are, easier it is to aim, less time the enemy player has to react to your shells, the more likelihood you're going to blap their broadside. So I did that, disengaged when I need to, healed up, went back into action, and rinse, wash, and repeat, throw some deep water torpedoes at some ships that are trying to push into you, and you're having great games in the Tsurugi. So, obviously, I do recommend the ship if you can pick her up. Unfortunately, she's not available for outright purchase at the moment. She is available in the Santa containers right now. I'm not saying go gamble hundreds of dollars to get the Tsurugi. I'm saying that if you have one, take her out. She's a lot better now than she was beforehand. If you pick one up in a Santa container or whatever, or in whatever container, you got a pretty good ship on your hands. Just know it's frail. Don't get caught broadside. Use your concealment and your speed and your maneuverability to disengage, heal up, then you can go back in and use your excellent guns on the enemy team. So guys, that is my 2 cents on the Tsurugi after her buffs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.